You were live.
Most excellent. Okay. Good evening, everyone, committee members and honored invited guests. Welcome to the July 25th meeting, the Arts and Public Places Commission. I'm David Arthur, co-chair of the commission. I'll be filling in for Genevieve this evening because she is not able to make it. She had a work emergency, so we'll be carrying on without her. Maybe she'll join later, but we will carry on without her. With that said, Mr. Joe, could you please give a roll call, please?
I sure can. Genevieve is absent. David.
Here.
Joe, here. Jim.
Here.
Barbara.
Here.
Lynn.
Here.
Cynthia is not here. And Krissa, I think, is also not here.
That's correct. All right, cool. Thank you, Joe. Moving on to the speed of art. Has everyone got a chance to, has everyone received the agenda in the minutes from the last meeting? Most excellent. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda in the minutes from the last meeting? Do we have anyone to approve the July 25th agenda? A motion to approve.
I move that we approve the July 25th agenda.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all. So we're looking for the approval of the June 24th minutes. We have a motion to approve the June 24th minutes.
June 27th.
I'm sorry, June 27th. Let me make this bigger so I can see them on two screens that all over the place now. I got so much going on. Okay. June 27th minutes approval. A motion to approve.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Cool. All right. All right, up to our committee reports. Barbara, anything from the poet laureate corner?
Thanks, David. We're still working on updating our documents I mentioned last time so that we can get the poet laureate position reposted for the fall, and we'll get more applicants. And we had one question for Genevieve. She's not here, but I noticed on the financial sheet that Maggie only received payment for her $300 in supplies for the Poetry Month events, but she did not receive her stipend for this year. So that's just one that we have to follow up on. Okay. Other than that, I wanted to thank Cynthia for submitting a citation for Natalie Loeb. I think it's going to be presented on the 31st. It's for her contributions to the city and to the art and community, in particular, her contributions to poetry.
Awesome.
So that's all I have to report.
Okay. Have you reached out to Genevieve yet, or is that the two item for you?
Yeah, I did reach out to her. I figured she was probably busy today, and I copied Maggie so we can all be on the same page. Somehow her invoice got lost, so okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure we'll follow with her as well after the meeting, just to let her know how everything went. Okay. Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you, Barbara. Usually Genevieve has a proposed mural updates. I don't have any updates. Does anyone else have any mural updates that they want to share with the group? I do not. Grants update. Joe, Lynn?
Yeah, just real quick follow-up from last month. I did just reach out to Ryan at the State Arts Council just to kind of talk about sort of now that the RFQ is moving forward, kind of what our process is for the applications for their funding that we're now eligible for. So I've not heard back yet, but I will let you know as soon as I do.
That's excellent. Thank you. Public outreach updates. Again, I have nothing. Currently, okay. Krista can't get into the meeting, so stand by one quickly. See if I can forward the meeting to her. These words are so flat. So I can forward that. Please hold. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Go through this every time. Cool. All right. All right. I need to send her the which number. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, get back to my agenda if I can find that now. Okay, cool. Next item on the agenda is the budget. So everybody here received Genevieve's email regarding our budget. Unfortunately, we won't be receiving our official budget until August. So we are still, based on her email, roughly around a little over $4,000, a little over, $4,000 left in our budget, which includes us from doing any spending votes this particular meeting. We do not meet in August, so we'll probably have to wait until September to actually enact our spending budget conversations. So hopefully, I'm not quite sure what the actual amount is yet. I guess we won't know until they reach out and let us know what it is, but obviously we have a number of proposals that we may need to review. So we'll have to have that conversation once we get our final budget. So unfortunately, that is the case. Yes, Lynn.
Are any of these events before September?
I believe the list of the Jazz Roots Festival starts, maybe, if my memory serves me correct. Joe, do you remember that?
I think that is right. I think that's the one.
Yes, I'm not quite sure what the protocol is for people who have submitted their requests, in a timely fashion, but that's due to what's going on with the budget. I don't know how we basically address that. I guess
we have done it. We have done it in the past on one or two occasions where this happened, and we paid the people after the fact.
Right.
But we had agreed to and voted for the project before we, well before that. It's just some snafu, we couldn't pay them on time.
Right.
So are we allowed to meet in August if we know then how much our budget is? So that we can.
Well, we could theoretically meet in August.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody wants to, but we could meet in August if we had to, I would think. If a majority of the commission
there's some email from Hillary indicating give us an option too, because I know a lot of people vacation in August, myself included. So we really just have to kind of pick a date that works for, I guess, the city and for us if we wanted to meet. And again, that's assuming that we get our budget in August. Just because they say they're going to give it to us doesn't necessarily mean they're going to give it to us in a timely fashion. So, and it depends on when. If it's not until the end of August, then we're going to have to wait till September anyway. Okay. Yes, Rosalind.
Your budget has already been approved when the budget was approved, so I can get you that amount. I can email it as early as tomorrow so that you all have the amount, and that way you'll know, to go through. You'll be able to make decisions based on how much you're proposed to get.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, we were told we weren't getting until August, so I'm not sure.
So, yeah, because our budget. I'm sorry, David. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Our budget is based on the hotel tax.
Correct.
And so until they have counted that for the year, we don't know what the amount is.
Oh, so okay, then I stand corrected.
Yeah, the city doesn't give Art and Public Places direct funds anymore. Our funds come directly from the hotel tax now.
Okay, so I guess that was just a placeholder in our budget then, because we had numbers in our budget. So that was just a placeholder. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
This brings to mind, if I may, one of the problems, we did make a mistake because we didn't really budget this accurately in terms of our spending. We probably should not have put $50,000 in escrow at one lump sum like that. We should have probably waited until this month or next month, whenever we know the next round of money, and then added another 25,000 to it and made it 50 then. That would have given us this flexibility. But that's hindsight, and we don't really have a whole lot to say about it. But I would suggest that if we do get that number, maybe we could hold a meeting on our regular meeting night, which, I'm not terribly keen to meet, but we could do that and just make it a one-purpose meeting to approve money for this one project would be held up by it.
Yeah, and I think, Jim, we basically put that 50 in escrow based on previous years where we actually got it in a timely fashion. I think we usually got it around that June, July time frame. So we were just assuming that we would follow that particular cycle. Apparently, but that's something happened this year that made it a little bit different. But I see your point, basically reserving a little bit more money so we could have some spending budget, prior to getting a full budget. Cool. Any more questions, thoughts, comments regarding our budget? I'm going to take silence as a no. Okay. All right. Well, we said we're moving on to the speed of art. Next up is new business. We have Eric Lazinski presenting the Planning and Zoning 2040 Comprehensive Plan presentation. So, Madeline, if you could let either Eric or his team in, that would be great. So Eric and Casey, greetings. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Hey, yep. Trying to turn my camera on here.
All right.
Let's see. There we go. Hey.
Hi there. How you doing?
Welcome.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you as well.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Sure. Yes, I'm here with I'm Eric Lazinski, Chief of Comprehensive Planning for the city, and I'm here with Casey Ortiz, who's a comprehensive planner in the department, and Ladd Nichols Kaufman is a summer intern from St. John's College in our department. So we have just a brief presentation on the comprehensive plan. It's called Annapolis Ahead 2040. Let me share my screen. Appreciate you getting through the rest of the agenda so quickly. All right, can you see that?
Yes, we can.
All right. So the intent is to give you an overview of the draft comprehensive plan that we just released in mid-June at the Planning Commission on June 15th. Give you an overview of how it relates to our Public Places Commission. We've been really doing the rounds to a lot of boards and commissions and city council committees to just frame the plan, in the context of what the different groups are focused on. And we're in the middle of a 90-day public comment period. So that's partly what we're doing this big push on outreach to make it more visible and let people know how to participate in the review. So here we're looking at the cover of the plan, and I'm gonna go into some frequently asked questions, talk about the review, and then give you an overview of what's in the plan. And for the purposes of this group, it's really just the arts and culture chapter, so it makes it pretty straightforward. With some of the other groups, things are woven throughout the whole plan, but just some of the frequently asked questions. How long is the draft document open for review? So 90 days. Technically ends September 14th, but we're going to go through the second meeting of the Planning Commission in September, which I believe is September 22nd. And will there be more chances to learn about Annapolis Ahead? Yes. We have this dedicated website, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment. Casey's email is here. You can also email me. Many of you have my email address. If you have specific questions or curiosities, how can I give feedback? Well, the website that I'm going to show you in a second has a number of ways to submit comments, but really we've been receiving them by email. we've been receiving that at in-person events that we've had, and through council members and others, intermediaries. We've been getting comments from all angles. So, but really, we're here. Email is a great way to reach us with comments. Are you planning to meet with any civic associations, HOAs, et cetera? Yeah, we are. We've been doing some of these already. We have a date with the Ward 1 Residents Association, August 8th. We're picking dates with some other groups right now. So if anybody on this board represents a neighborhood or other organization you want us to meet with, please reach out and we'll find a date to do that. Yeah, we have just set one with the Heritage community, I think, for August 9th. So anyhow, that's just that we have an open invitation for folks to reach out to us and get kind of a tailored presentation discussion. So what happens after this 90-day review period ends? Well, the planning staff, we're gathering all these comments into a comment log. We're going to respond, provide responses. We're doing a lot of this for the Planning Commission, who will then package everything and deliver the draft plan to the City Council with a recommendation on what to do. And that's when the City Council will start an adoption process, which it's hard to say what that's going to look like. It's really up to the City Council. It could take many months. It's hard to know. It's they have to make a determination on how expediently they want to move through the process. But in theory, at that point, this draft plan has been vetted by the community and goes to City Council. So this is, I don't have to spend much time on this schedule, but it's really just pointing out that, you know, we're in this 90-day review period here. We're doing all this range of public outreach. And then after that, the City Council adoption process starts. And, you know, I think we're looking forward to having an adopted comprehensive plan ultimately. It just important to acknowledge that this is an unusual process, I think, within the city, where it's not initiated by the City Council. It's actually initiated by the Planning Commission. It's a state code issue. So we follow the state code and how we do this process. And that's why the Planning Commission is sort of shepherding the process. Just important to note that. If you remember nothing else from tonight, AnnapolisAhead2040.com is our dedicated website that you can go to, and it'll actually first direct you to the city's website where we've been documenting our process. That's what this looks like. And there's this button that says review the draft plan. You click on that. It takes you to a whole new website that's specific for this comment period. And so this gray button to read Annapolis Ahead, that's where you can download the whole document. If you scroll down, you can see a few videos that were made by the Annapolis TV studio. Thank you to Madeline for her work on these. We have a couple more that we're finalizing to add. They unfortunately feature me. I wasn't ready for prime time, but here I am. But if you keep scrolling down through this website, you'll find special like excerpt. Basically every chapter is broken out, and so you can go straight to the arts and culture chapter, just download that, the land use chapter, and there's a comment link for each of those chapters. You can see here we have hard copies of the plan at the libraries and at the City Council chambers for folks to check out there. So I'm going to give just a little bit of an overview of just the beginning of the plan to frame before we get into arts and culture. This is the structure of the plan, and I should say, feel free to ask questions along the way if you like. I don't mind if anything is confusing or you have a question, but this is the structure. The bulk of the plan is divided into these three sections: the thriving city, the functional city, the adaptive city. Most of these chapters are required by the state. And I've said this before, but the arts and culture chapter is the one chapter that's not required by the state. And I'm really proud that that is a distinguishing feature of our comprehensive plan. I don't believe we've ever had a dedicated chapter for arts and culture. It's in the functional city section, which is an effort to make the case or justify that arts and culture is not, it's not a luxury. It's something that really has to be integral to our city, regardless of how well the economy is doing. It would help if more people stay in the city to generate more hotel tax for art and public places. But it's really, I think it's a statement here that it's just as important as transportation or community facilities. And these appendices here, these are all various other planning documents that were produced along the way. Some of them are from task forces that were formed by the city council that weren't specific to the comprehensive plan, but they happen to deal with issues that are important to the comprehensive plan. So like the maritime industry or Forest Drive. So housing affordability. So those are all linked from the website. There's a special tab just for the appendices. The introduction, it's kind of like an executive summary for the plan. It's a good way to get an overview of what's in this plan. The first page is important because it shows these three themes: equity, health, resilience. They underscore everything in this plan. Every goal and recommended action is reinforcing equity, health, and resilience. We have a lot of images like this that are really relevant to the last couple of years. This is the Juneteenth parade, the first annual from last year. That was really important to kind of ground this plan in something that is of the moment. So we worked hard to find good images.
And we know that it's the Juneteenth parade, Eric, because that's the only parade that goes up Main Street.
Yes, good point. Great point, Lynn. We want this plan to be relevant to everybody. It's not just for staff or elected officials or other types of, city decision makers or boards and commissions, but we want residents and people who are investing in the city, business owners, to look at this. So we have some information in this first chapter about how to use the plan and direct it to different types of people. We talk about the plan process and how we got to this point, and COVID definitely pushed us back time-wise. We've been doing this for about 3 years, and we pivoted quite a bit during COVID, changed the way we did our outreach, used different technologies, depended on virtual meetings a lot more, but we got through it, and I'm just happy that we got to this point. Community participation was extensive through that whole period, and we tried to summarize what that looked like throughout all the various types of meetings and ways that we tried to reach folks. And we highlight the boards and commissions in here. This isn't the first time I've met with AIPPC. I would say the same about a lot of our boards and commissions. It's particularly during COVID, you had these virtual meetings, you have volunteers on these boards and commissions that are very knowledgeable about specific topics that are in the comprehensive plan. And so we leaned on a lot of boards and commissions as kind of almost like focus groups throughout. The only thing I want to say about demographic trends, this chapter talks about a whole range of who Annapolis is today and how we've changed over the last 10 years since the last comprehensive plan. Clearly, COVID was a big factor in helping us understand our communities and particularly vulnerable communities. So we looked for a way to, this is something I've probably shared at almost every meeting. This idea of social vulnerability was a way for us to figure out how we could really address equity, health, and resilience throughout this comprehensive plan in a way that was grounded to actual needs. And social vulnerability It comes from the Centers for Disease Control. It's a metric that they've used. It's based on 15 different factors, ranging from socioeconomic status to minority status and language. And the map here shows the darker areas are more socially vulnerable communities. So you have the Clay Street, Old Fourth Ward here, but then you have this whole kind of crescent along Forest Drive. So this kind of equates, I think, to what we might know anecdotally if you've lived in the city for some time, but this kind of gives us the baseline. And we use that map throughout the plan to help us understand how we're meeting needs in different ways or not meeting them. I'm not going to go into the thriving city, but this is just, again, we talk about municipal growth, land use, and housing in this section. And then in functional city, we get into chapter 8 is arts and culture. This image from Inner West Street is a good example of how, the city is a very flexible place in many ways in terms of how we can start to think about it as a place that can adapt and do more and provide more opportunities. And in our arts and culture chapter, one of the big themes is trying to expand the narrative about Annapolis. So because I'm only focusing on this chapter for the most part in this presentation, I'm going to actually go through this whole chapter. It's not that many pages, but give you a sense of what's in here and how AIPPC fits into it. We really want to make the case for this. The trajectory that we're on right now, I'm happy to say, is about expanding the narrative for culture in the city and highlighting narratives that haven't really been promoted to the degree they should have. So this exhibit is at the Museum of Historic Annapolis at the foot of Main Street. It focused on the civil rights era in Annapolis. I think it's an excellent.
My older brother in there.
Is that right? Oh my
I believe
God.
so. My brother mentioned he saw this picture and he took a picture of this picture and he showed it to us. I think that's him on the right hand side.
Yes, it does look like him.
Amazing. Well, I think this is I'm happy to share this exhibit because I think it, for a museum that's right at the bottom of Main Street, I think it sets a standard for what we should be seeing in other projects in the city around historic and cultural preservation. So we want to highlight that. And you'll see Hoppy Adams in probably 3 different ways in this comprehensive plan. I mean, we have a sidebar here about him. We talk about Carr's Beach, Elktonia Carr's Beach in the community facilities chapter. And then in this, I'll talk about the museum project that we're working on, but as former home. But really, this chapter is trying to take stock of our cultural community and the creative economy that comes out of that. I don't think is well understood by a lot of people I talk to in the city. It's diverse and diffuse. It's not necessarily anchored in any one particular place. It happens throughout the year through events and festivals and parades. And so trying to understand what that is and the impact it has is a big part of this chapter. I don't think we've done that before, frankly. At least I haven't found any kind of study of that. This is not going to be the most comprehensive analysis, but we're trying to get there in just a handful of pages. So, entertainment district and what that means for Annapolis, the role it plays. I mean, candidly, it doesn't include a major block of Inner West Street, but I think many people already associate it with that block. There is a recommendation to expand the arts and entertainment district in this comprehensive plan. We have a map I'll show in a second. But we have a lot of data in these pages about how these types of districts function elsewhere and in Annapolis specifically, a little bit of the history of it. This map tries to capture what the institutional and for-profit and nonprofit arts community looks like in the city. We may have missed a few places. This would be a great map to scrutinize, pages 240, 241, see if there are other things that we should be included. We could expand the map beyond this, but really these are the enterprises that we are aware of that kind of constitute the creative community of the city. And you can see the dark green is our existing arts entertainment district. This striped light green area is the proposed expansion that is something that the city council and the state would have to authorize. And then this Kelly green area is this Annapolis Design District, which is a kind of a business organization in the industrial area of the city. We talk a lot about cultural institutions on these pages. There's quite a diversity of these organizations, and they really, I would say, form a backbone for our cultural economy and bring people to the city across all disciplines, genres of artistic practice and performance. And we just try to make a case for them. And the fact it's sort of a strange thing to include in here because it's not, the city, really doesn't support any of these continuously, as far as I understand. Perhaps there is a contribution to Maryland Hall that happens regularly, but it's that there are things we can do to make sure these organizations are successful as a city, even if they're not technically part of our city government. They form this ecology, for the cultural community here. So we want to acknowledge that. And then when we get into historic and cultural preservation, we do highlight a bunch of projects that I think are very much of the moment, particularly because they're not in the historic district, the Annapolis Historic District. I mean, a couple of them are, but many are not. I think that's important to acknowledge. So, we have our Cars Beach project on the Back Creek side of the city. It's a big, both conservation and preservation initiative. Maynard Burgess House is in the historic district right across from City Hall. This is a glimpse of the Hoppy Adams House in Parole, where there's an effort to create a Hoppy Adams Museum. And I think it could be one of the coolest museums we've ever experienced. When you think about sound and audio being a primary player in that experience, I can't think of a museum where that was the sort of the guide of what happens in that museum. And there's a great group of folks in the Parole community who are driving this process. So it's really, it's good to see. We have the Burtis House by the city dock. This is the Masonic Lodge on Clay Street. And then the Bryce House is probably the most significant project that Historic Annapolis is working on in the historic district right now. So we do have, the requisite attention to the historic district. I think it's important to acknowledge that it remains a signature aspect of our city that brings tons of people here to visit and to live, and it distinguishes Annapolis. There's no question. We try to look at this in a much more nuanced lens, though. It's not just about protecting the historic district in terms of the architecture, but it's about preserving and enhancing the neighborhood that is the historic district as this kind of like living community. It's not set in amber. It has always evolved, and so that's an important thing to acknowledge. But then we also highlight these two, what we call preservation focus areas outside of the historic district. So one is the Old Fourth Ward along Clay Street, and the other is the Parole neighborhood within the city. And these are important to acknowledge historically African American communities. They both have some very important historic sites, some of which have been protected, others have not. And we acknowledge some of those places that need to have a plan moving forward. But this is an important part of historic preservation as we move forward. And then we close the chapter. I mean, perhaps we should have led with this, but arts and cultural programming is really significant here in the city, and AIPPC plays an enormous role in this in terms of activating places around the city and drawing people to those places. So this is where you'll find the content specifically about AIPPC and the kinds of things that the organization has done and should do in the future. So please give this a read. Pages 250, 251. Make sure it jives with your understanding of the commission. But I think we picked up on a lot of the things that are happening here from the trends and what we understand to be coming in the near future. So there's 4 goals. This is the end of the presentation. There's 4 goals in this chapter, and each goal has a handful of recommended actions. Not going to read all of this, but we can certainly delve into them after. So the first one is about historic and cultural preservation and that kind of diversification that I was talking about. The second goal is expanding the reach of the arts entertainment district and what that could be doing to be more effective. The third here is expand the capacity of the city to initiate and manage programs, public realm enhancements, and support the city's creative economy. And so this is where there's some recommendations for AIPPC. And one thing I noticed, this was a mistake, but we have a performance measure here that is to hire a dedicated staff person for the city that would focus on arts and cultural programming. And I would think be an important support person for AIPPC. That didn't make it into a recommended action. So that should be that's something we have to add. But it's actually surprising, in my view, from seeing other cities, that it's very surprising that we have the level of arts programming and activity, cultural activity, without having a truly dedicated staff person. I know that we have somebody in the mayor's office, Brian, who works on a lot of cultural projects, but that staff person is not somebody that will continue from mayor to mayor. And so I think it's important to acknowledge, and the work that your group does has been critical, despite that you all being volunteers. And so I think Annapolis deserves a dedicated person in that role. And then finally, this last one is really specific to the historic district and kind of things that could happen to make it more sustainable in the future. So that is the presentation. This flyer was just something we put out to promote these in-person events that we just wrapped up recently. We're planning 2 more in-person events in September. If anybody wants to join those, we're looking at one at Pitt Moyer and another one possibly at the West Street Library in early and mid-September. So happy to take any questions you might have. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. A lot of information to digest. Any questions, Eric? Actually, I do have 2 questions. If someone were to request for your group to have an in-person event, like a neighborhood group, how far in advance do they need to reach out to you?
Just a couple weeks, really. I mean, I think it's just to try to get into people's schedules. I think a couple weeks is ideal, but I'm going to personally be away August 15th to 25th. So ideally, we schedule stuff before the 15th or after the 25th, but that's really the main issue for me.
And a second question, what I did, I wrote it down here somewhere. Oh, social trends. You may have gone over this, but I may have missed it. Your social trends data, where did that come from again?
So at the beginning of the process, we commissioned a demographic and market study from a consultant called BAE Urban Economics, and they basically go through the census data and pull the trends that we're seeing for Annapolis. They actually updated it once because they initially did it before the official census data had come out, and then the census data was late. I don't think it came out till 2021, and so they then updated it. But the most updated one is linked on our website in the appendices. If you go to that Annapolis2040.com, you can see that report.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Eric? Okay. I think Chris is here now. Looks like she's here. Cool. Perfect. Okay.
I'll just say, if I could just say thank you, Eric. And thank you for including a section on arts and culture, even though it's not required. So, and I know how hard you've been working on this for many years. So it looks like it's turning out to be a really great plan.
Thanks a lot, Lynn. Yeah, I mean, I really like it. It is a lot. I think if you don't want to print the whole document, there's the chapter 13 is called Recommended Action Matrix. That is like a summary of every goal and recommended action. I think it's about 30 pages, and it's probably the best sort of just rundown of everything. But when we've been talking to people for over 3 years, it's hard to make a small doc, and we have a very engaged population here that everybody has something they want in this plan. So it's pretty hard to edit it down, but thanks a lot.
Okay. All right, Eric. Well, thank you for your team and taking the time to present to us. Definitely a lot of information to digest, and we will circle back once a group and get back to you, basically.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David, everybody. Appreciate it.
We're open to hang out, but thank you very much.
Okay. Take care. I'm going to jump
Looks
off.
like we lost Jim. Okay. Lost a lot of people. Now we have 5 of us. Okay, cool. All right. Well, hopefully we'll come back. Cool. Next up on our agenda is open discussion. So we're going to open up the floor for any thoughts, comments anyone may have. You guys are intent on making it the shortest meeting in history, aren't you? That's what's up. I got it. Okay. Chris, anything from you? I know you're late joining. Anything from your corner of the world?
No, not right now. It sounded like it was pretty good. I'm sorry I missed the first part of it. So, I'll try to get caught up in other ways, but it sounded like it's a good plan, and I look forward to hearing more about it.
Cool. Okay.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. Cynthia, I know you're just late coming in. Any comments from you?